You know, have you ever stopped to think if governments could be, well, about more than just managing scarcity?
It's like really unleashing abundance instead.
Exactly, because for so many of us, it feels like trust in public institutions is really low right now.
And the polling data often backs that feeling up, doesn't it? It's not just perception.
Right. You see the political gridlock, you hear concerns about corruption, just sheer inefficiency sometimes. It can be deeply frustrating.
It really can. And that loss of trust isn't just, a feeling.
Yeah.
The source we're looking at highlights it as a profound leadership crisis.
A leadership crisis? How so?
Well, where our institutions become reactive, kind of building walls when they should be building bridges.
Ah, I see. And that feeling that maybe the system is quote unquote rigged.
Yeah, that can unfortunately lead people to just disengage,
Yeah.
right? From voting, from participating civically.
Which is the opposite of what we need. So today we're doing a deep dive into a framework that offers a really exciting alternative. It's called Abundant Government: Implementing Kingdom and Abundance Principles in Government Systems by Brian C. Alston.
Abundant government. Sounds intriguing.
It is. And this isn't about just minor tweaks. It's presented as more of a blueprint for really redesigning governance from the ground up to rebuild that trust.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then is to unpack how we might shift from that reactive, scarcity-based bureaucracy.
Yeah, the status quo for many.
Right, and move towards a proactive, abundance-oriented way of governing.
Guided by what the author calls ethical leadership and exponential innovation.
Exactly. We'll really dig into what it means to build systems that heal instead of harm. Systems that genuinely protect the vulnerable.
And serve with clarity, humility, and even the author uses the word love.
That's a powerful framing for government.
It is. So let's start by unpacking this foundational shift the author talks about, moving from scarcity to abundance.
Okay.
The book really zeroes in on this global crisis of trust we mentioned, citizens just losing faith.
That's right. And the author emphasizes, again, it's not just perception. The insight here is it's a leadership crisis.
Right, where institutions become reactive, not proactive.
Yeah, building walls, eroding that public trust. It's the foundation of a functioning democracy, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the book points to the scarcity mindset as the sort of the root cause here.
The traditional operating system.
Pretty much, you know, resources are limited, threats are everywhere, so control is necessary.
And that fosters these rigid hierarchies, right? Agencies working in silos.
Stifling innovation along the way.
Definitely. And the really tough consequence is how it disproportionately harms the most marginalized people.
Yeah.
What's compelling is the book's argument that this scarcity mindset has infected the moral imagination of public institutions.
Wow. Infected the moral imagination. That's strong.
It is. It suggests that public service starts to feel synonymous with red tape and just inertia, a self-fulfilling prophecy of limitation, really.
The abundant government comes along and just flips that script entirely.
Okay, how so?
Instead of asking, what can we afford to give? It asks, what would justice require if nothing held us back?
That's a radical question for government.
Isn't it? It reframes government as a steward, cultivating opportunity, seeing people not as drains, but as potentials to be multiplied.
That's a powerful reframing. It's transformative, really.
Yeah.
So policy isn't just reactive anymore. It becomes proactive, designed for, flourishing.
And budgets reflect long-term investment, not just short-term austerity.
Right. Leadership gets distributed, citizen engagement becomes continuous, a living process.
And this approach, the author argues, actually builds resilience and regenerative systems.
Yeah, the book even states this isn't just a better strategy, it's presented as a moral imperative.
Yeah, okay, that brings us to what the author calls the kingdom-centered approach, a set of guiding principles. And the book makes a pretty bold claim right at the start that governance has always been a spiritual enterprise.
Okay, that's a phrase that might make some listeners pause, especially in diverse secular contexts.
Right. So how does the book define spiritual here? It's not about imposing religion, is it?
No, not at all. That's a crucial distinction the author makes. It's not advocating for a theocracy or specific dogma.
So what does spiritual enterprise mean in this context?
It refers more to the foundational ethics and the ultimate purpose of governance.
Okay.
Recognizing that governing is deeply human work, dealing with universal values like dignity, justice, compassion. Principles often explored in spiritual traditions, sure, but they're really universal human values.
So it's about those core values.
Exactly. So when the framework asks if a policy reflects God's nature, It's less about theology and more about asking, does this embody universal compassion? Is it equitable? Does it show profound respect for human flourishing?
Aligning with the highest ideals of public service, regardless of personal belief.
Precisely. It grounds governance in a strong moral framework beyond just, legal compliance.
Okay, that reframing makes a lot more sense. And it connects directly to this idea of governance as stewardship, not control.
Yeah, that's a profound shift. Power used to protect, multiply, and serve, not to dominate.
So public resources are held with reverence. Budgets become moral documents.
Exactly. That demands generational thinking, investing in future capacities, not just plugging immediate holes.
And building trust by sharing information, inviting co-creation with the public.
Right. And what's really insightful here, I think, is that it requires leaders to overcome their ego.
How so?
To understand they're just temporary caretakers of eternal purposes. It demands real humility, even at the highest levels of power.
Temporary caretakers. I like that. So if governance is this deep ethical relational thing, how does something like relationship literacy or RLP fit in? It sounds a bit soft for government work.
It does sound soft, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's actually about hardwiring empathy and real human connection into the bureaucratic DNA.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, the powerful insight is that often what we see of inefficiency or maybe even corruption isn't just bad policy. It's often a breakdown in relational trust.
A breakdown in relationships within the system.
Exactly. So RLP argues that teaching public servants skills like how to truly listen, how to navigate conflict, aiming for restoration, not just rules, that can literally unblock systemic gridlock.
So instead of seeing a frustrated citizen as a case number,
you see them as a person whose frustration signals a broken relationship with the system, and you have tools to actually repair that relationship.
that could change everything. So it transforms internal culture too, like HR policies.
Yes, promoting dignity, using conflict resolution for restoration. And externally, it means more empathetic listening, more empowering public messaging.
It provides tools for institutional repair then,
Yeah.
guiding leaders through those real, relational, and often painful conversations.
Exactly. The ones that lead to lasting change, not just surface fixes.
That really brings it to life. Okay, what about kingdom citizenship and leadership ethics? If citizens are co-stewards, does that mean they're not just passive recipients?
Precisely. They have an active role. And leadership ethics, in this view, go way beyond legality.
Beyond just following the rules.
Right. It constantly asks, is this policy loving? Is it equitable? Does it reflect this universal, compassionate nature of a truly just system?
Asking the deeper questions.
Yes. And this calls citizens into active participation. It also radically transforms how leaders handle opposition.
How so?
Critique isn't seen as an attack, but as a sacred opportunity for alignment, a chance to get closer to those core principles.
Wow, okay. That's a different way to view criticism. Now let's shift a bit. The pace of technology. The book argues it has outstripped the capacity of many governments.
That feels true, doesn't it? Tech changes so fast.
It really does. So how does this framework propose aligning governance with that exponential innovation and civic participation?
Well, it draws on Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler's 6 Ds of exponential growth. Digitized, deceptive, disruptive.
Demonetized, dematerialized, democratized.
Right.
Exactly.
And for me, applying this to governance, democratized, is maybe the most powerful D.
Why democratized?
Because it's not just about voting. It means technology itself is pushing power and access to information out to the masses.
So governments can't be gatekeepers anymore.
Right. They have to become collaborators, guides. Think about citizens co-designing services directly, or blockchain making ledgers transparent so anyone can check them.
Yeah.
That democratized force really shifts who holds power and how decisions get made. It demands smarter, more agile, more anticipatory systems from government.
That makes total sense. But, technology alone isn't a silver bullet, is it?
Absolutely not. And the book warns strongly against techno-solutionism.
The idea that just having the right app will fix deep problems.
Exactly. The emphasis here is squarely on co-creation. Tech advancement isn't enough. It needs inclusive governance.
Citizens have to help design how the tech is used.
Precisely. Technology is described as a servant, not a savior. It needs careful stewardship, courage, yes, but also care, always serving human flourishing.
So it sounds like we're not just looking for competent administrators anymore. The book talks about needing ethical, emotionally intelligent, and spiritually grounded leaders.
That's right, a different kind of leader.
So what does equipping leaders for this kind of systems change actually look like in the abundant government framework?
Well, these abundant leaders are described as being fundamentally self-aware, highly relational strategists.
And they practice that relationship literacy we talked about.
Yes, actively. It also means creating systems within government to address the burnout and moral injury that public servants often face.
Providing systems of care for its caregivers. That's important.
Hugely important. It's about building a culture where leaders can be whole, wise, and resilient enough to navigate this complexity.
Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about implementing this abundance in action,
Right.
starting at the federal level. The book suggests national systems need to be interdependent with adaptive feedback loops and participatory mechanisms at scale. That sounds complex.
It is complex, but the idea is moving away from rigid top-down control towards something more like a living system.
Is there a compelling example of a nation already moving this way?
I think Estonia's digital nation's a prime example mentioned.
Yes, me, Estonia.
Exactly. This small country basically rebuilt its systems from scratch after independence, and they went all in on digital governance,
They offer almost everything online.
like 99% of services, through something called X-Road. And crucially, citizens keep control over their own data.
That's key.
It really demonstrates incredible courage, I think, and a deep trust-centric philosophy baked into the government design. It shows a federal system can be both efficient and empowering.
That is genuinely inspiring, and it brings up a crucial point about how we measure success. The book argues GDP is often, well, narrow and misleading.
Yeah, we focus so much on GDP.
So what do these kingdom metrics propose instead?
They push us to go beyond just economic indicators and embrace holistic well-being, meaning encompassing physical, emotional, social, economic, and even spiritual health. Think of New Zealand's well-being budget,
Right, they allocate funds based on well-being priorities.
or Bhutan's famous Gross National Happiness Index. These frameworks try to measure true human flourishing and collective prosperity, not just financial transactions.
And how do technologies like AI and blockchain fit into this federal vision?
They offer huge potential. AI for things like fraud detection, blockchain for transparent voting or land registries.
Digital twins for city planning.
Right. But, and this is big, but in the source, they must always be implemented with strong ethical guardrails.
And with citizen design, you mentioned.
Absolute critical.
Yeah.
Technology has to serve justice and equity, not just efficiency or control.
Okay, let's move down a level now to state and regional empowerment. The idea of decentralization is described quite strongly as a spiritual and systemic correction to over-centralization.
That is a strong phrase, isn't it?
It is. What does that mean for how we govern?
It's fundamentally about moving decision-making power closer to the people it affects.
Because over-centralization leads to
Often, those one-size-fits-all solutions that just don't work locally. Decentralization, in contrast, empowers communities. It recognizes their inherent dignity and competence.
allowing them to tailor solutions to their unique context.
Exactly, leading to more just, more inclusive, ultimately more sustainable results.
And how does this connect to regional budgeting using those wellness indicators we discussed?
Well, budgets then truly become those moral documents. They reflect holistic community health. The focus shifts from abstract line items.
Concrete outcomes that matter in people's lives, like, are people healthier, more connected?
Precisely. And citizen participation becomes absolutely essential here. Communities co-design the indicators, they monitor the progress.
Making sure the budget reflects real needs, not just political agendas.
Right. It builds accountability from the ground up.
The book mentions Kenya's devolved systems as an example. Their 2010 constitution created 47 county governments.
Yes, that was a massive transfer of power and resources. Really significant.
And have there been positive results?
There have. Counties like Turkana, for example, have used this devolved power to invest directly in things like clean water and healthcare in remote areas that were often neglected before.
So real, tangible benefits.
Definitely. Now, challenges like corruption certainly persist, that's acknowledged, but it demonstrates that successful local development and genuine citizen participation are possible when local governments are resourced and trusted.
And McQueen County is mentioned too.
Yes, McCooney County often gets highlighted for its particularly progressive participatory budgeting processes and its commitment to transparency. They're seen as a real leader in making devolution work.
Okay, let's zoom in even further. City and town governments. The source uses this beautiful phrase describing cities as living, breathing, relational ecosystems.
That phrase, relational ecosystems, I think it's key. It shifts the perspective.
How so?
It means local government's primary role isn't just service delivery, but actively stewarding relationships, integrating the formal government structures with all the informal networks.
Like faith leaders, neighborhood groups, local organizers.
Exactly. Respecting their vital role. Government becomes less about dominating and more about connecting, convening, facilitating relationships across the whole community.
And how does urban planning itself change when you apply these principles of wellness and inclusion?
It means designing cities that are understood to profoundly shape our mental, physical, and spiritual health.
So every design choice is like a health intervention.
Pretty much. From how accessible the sidewalks are, to the availability of green spaces, to the quality of public transport, and critically, it means ensuring input from all voices.
People with disabilities, elders, women, youth, ethnic minorities.
Yes, so that cities are genuinely designed for everyone's flourishing, not just a select few.
A well-known example of this is Amsterdam's adoption of Kate Raworth's donut economics model.
Right, the donut model.
How did that guide their decisions practically?
Well, the donut, with its inner social foundation, things everyone needs, and its outer ecological ceiling, the planetary boundaries we shouldn't cross it, provides this visual, measurable framework for thinking about holistic health.
So Amsterdam used it for
guiding major decisions in areas like housing, energy, food, emphasizing things like reuse, local production, circularity.
And the fascinating takeaway there, according to the source,
is that it proves abundance is measurable when your values are clear. It showed cities can pursue both equity and sustainability at the same time, moving beyond just chasing GDP growth.
And finally, at the local level, what about participatory budgeting, PB, combined with circular policy?
PB. That empowers community members to directly decide how to spend part of a public budget.
Which fosters a huge sense of ownership, I imagine.
Exactly. Ownership and accountability.
Yeah.
Now, combine that with circular policy, moving away from take-make waste towards constantly reusing and regenerating materials.
And you get this powerful synergy.
Right. A synergy for ecological stewardship and social healing. It really democratizes local finance and builds relational equity at the same time.
Okay, let's deepen our exploration now into some specific sector transformations, starting with justice systems.
Okay.
The source describes restorative justice and trauma-informed law as a radical and redemptive reimagining. That sounds like a huge shift.
It is a huge shift from traditional punitive models.
So what does it look like in practice?
Well, it shifts the focus away from just punishment. Instead, it centers the needs of the victim, encourages offender responsibility and accountability in a relational way, and facilitates community healing.
It's fundamentally about relationship, the source says, not just retribution.
Exactly. Think about Norway's prison system, which is often cited. They have exceptionally low recidivism rates.
Why is that?
Largely because they focus intensely on human dignity and reintegration. Their facilities are often designed more like campuses aimed at rehabilitation rather than just places for incarceration.
That's a very different approach. The book also states, as we touched on, that every policy decision has ethical dimensions.
Yes.
So how do these foundational ethics, maybe drawn from faith traditions, guide justice policy in this framework?
Well, the argument is that many faith traditions offer powerful blueprints for justice as restoration. They can guide laws by conscience, not just by popular polls or political expediency.
Challenging leaders to ask those deeper questions again.
Right. Is this policy truly loving? Is it equitable? Does it reflect a universal nature of compassion and justice? These questions push beyond narrow legality towards broader moral clarity, seeking policies that genuinely heal and restore communities.
Moving to public health systems, how do wellness-based governance metrics improve on just tracking disease stats?
They fundamentally shift the core question. Instead of just asking, what diseases are we curing? This asks, what kind of well-being are we actively cultivating?
So measuring things like
vitality, emotional resilience, social connection, even spiritual meaning or purpose. It means seeing physical, emotional, spiritual, and environmental health as equally essential interconnected components.
Which requires policy to be trauma-informed.
Yes, and to actively support meaning-making and collective well-being, not just treat isolated symptoms.
There's a powerful real-world case study mentioned here, Costa Rica's health-first approach.
Yes, Costa Rica.
What did they do differently that led to such remarkable health outcomes?
Well, they made a really profound choice back in 1949. They abolished their military completely.
Wow, and redirected the funds.
Exactly. Primarily into education and healthcare. And that strategic long-term investment has allowed them to achieve some of the best health outcomes globally.
through universal access and preventive care.
Right. And alongside that, they consistently rank very high in subjective well-being among your citizens. It's a powerful testament to the idea that, demilitarization can actually be a direct pathway to national abundance and health.
Okay, now, education systems. The book advocates for teaching for transformation, not testing. What does that really mean for schools?
It's a pretty bold departure from the high-stakes, standardized testing culture we see in many places. Towards nurturing the whole person, mind, body, heart, and soul. Developing wisdom, emotional maturity, moral grounding, not just academic knowledge recall.
So assessment would look different too?
Completely. It becomes continuous, formative, designed specifically to support learning and personal growth, rather than just labeling students or ranking schools against each other.
And how do equity, access, and this idea of spiritual literacy fit in?
Well, equity means ensuring every single student gets precisely what they need to thrive, which requires actively dismantling biased systems.
And access isn't just about getting in the door.
No, it goes beyond physical availability to include cultural relevance, emotional safety, and spiritual literacy. It's about nurturing an inner life.
An inner life.
Yeah, one that can make meaning, discern truth, engage the world with compassion. It's about fostering deep resilience and purpose in young people beyond just job skills.
Is there a real-world example of this kind of educational shift?
Rwanda's competency-based reforms, implemented around 2015, are mentioned as a fantastic example.
What did they change?
They shifted away from rote memorization towards critical thinking, essential life skills, and importantly, given their history, towards national healing.
Wow.
Teachers were reframed as facilitators of learning, and they really worked to integrate local context and community involvement into how schools were run.
Okay, turning now to environmental stewardship. The source introduces concepts like kingdom ecology and creation care. What's the core idea there?
The central idea is viewing the earth not just as a resource to be exploited, but as a sacred trust.
A sacred trust.
Yeah, where environmental justice and social justice are seen as basically indistinguishable. It rejects exploitative approaches and embraces careful, loving, intergenerational responsibility.
Seeing environmental degradation as a moral crisis, not just economic.
Exactly, a crisis that affects all living things.
And how do circular economies and regenerative systems fit this ecological worldview?
They represent that complete departure from the unsustainable take-make-waste industrial model towards continuously reusing materials and actively regenerating natural systems like soil health through regenerative agriculture. It aligns perfectly with the principle of stewardship. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes to the whole system's health.
Policies like banning single-use plastics fit here.
Perfectly. And actively supporting farming methods that heal the land, not just extract from it.
Rwanda comes up again here with its plastic ban and urban greening efforts.
Indeed, their 2008 ban on plastic bags was seen as truly transformational.
Leading to cleaner streets, apparently.
Remarkably cleaner streets, yes, but also fostering environmental stewardship as a core part of their national identity. It's a powerful example of how bold policy, when it aligns with values and gets community buy-in, can reshape landscapes and livelihoods.
Finally, let's touch on financial systems and economic abundance. What about decentralized finance, or DeFi, and ethical economies? How do they fit?
Well, DeFi is presented as a potential revolutionary alternative to traditional finance, which is often centralized and, let's face it, pretty opaque.
And DeFi offers?
It offers the potential to redistribute access, giving people, especially marginalized populations, often excluded by banks, more control over their financial lives. Peer-to-peer transactions, less reliance on gatekeepers.
Aligning with an abundance model where wealth circulates for community good.
That's the idea. Rather than being hoarded or concentrated in a few places, it's about leveraging finance for shared prosperity.
And how can blockchain technology help build more transparent government specifically?
Well, blockchain can build incredible trust. Imagine tracking government spending on a public, unchangeable ledger.
Or verifying voting records securely.
Or managing land titles with transparency. It fundamentally turns opacity into openness. Making data accessible and auditable reduces opportunities for corruption and builds public confidence.
Is there a simpler example of financial innovation mentioned?
Yes, a really powerful one. Kenya's M-Pesa.
Ah, the mobile money platform.
Exactly. It absolutely revolutionized financial inclusion for millions of low-income Kenyans. It shows how relatively small tools can create great abundance when powered by trust, purpose, and love.
Because it met people where they were.
Precisely. Using basic mobile phones and SIM cards for secure, accessible financial services. It proved that innovation doesn't always need complex, expensive infrastructure to have a massive impact.
Okay, so to bring all these threads together, the book provides what it calls a system reboot blueprint. It sounds intense.
It does. It's about fundamentally changing how things operate.
It starts with government systems diagnostics. What does that involve? Sounds like checking the engine.
Kind of. It begins with a really deep, honest evaluation of the existing systems. But it goes way beyond surface metrics. Looking at the cultural DNA of the organization, identifying the real bottlenecks, and critically understanding who currently benefits and who is harmed by how things are set up.
And it has to be participatory, right?
Absolutely crucial. Inviting civil servants and citizens into that analysis process itself. That builds genuine ownership of both the problems and the potential solutions.
Okay, once you've done that diagnosis, the next step is vision mapping and values alignment.
Right. This is about articulating a truly desired future state, seeing beyond the current constraints.
And inviting everyone into that shared dream.
Exactly. It requires defining what abundance actually looks like in practice for that specific community or system, and ensuring every single part of that vision reflects those core values we talked about: justice, dignity, flourishing.
The vision becomes more than just a plan.
It becomes like a shared covenant, something people commit to together.
The blueprint then emphasizes that sustainable transformation needs full engagement of stakeholders. How do you achieve that across diverse groups? Seems challenging.
It is challenging. The book suggests engagement needs to be tiered and multidimensional, using relational tools like appreciative inquiry to find existing strengths.
And ensuring language accessibility.
Critical. Mapping out the full spectrum of stakeholders, from frontline public servants to the most marginalized communities, and really diligently ensuring their input is integrated, heard, and genuinely reflected in the new design, not just token consultation.
Right. And then finally, the rubber meets the road with systems design labs and iterative policy testing.
Yeah, this is where the ideas get real. These are structured, collaborative environments.
Bringing public servants and citizens together.
Yes, to prototype, test, and refine new solutions. Small pilots, iterative learning, they're celebrated as wisdom in motion.
Allowing governments to de-risk reform, as the book says.
Exactly. It avoids those huge, risky top-down overhauls that often fail. It ensures policies aren't just static decrees handed down from above.
For living agreements?
Living agreements, continually shaped by real-world evidence and, crucially, by empathy for the people they're meant to serve.
Well, this has been a truly illuminating deep dive into abundant government, implementing kingdom and abundance principles in government systems by Brian C. Alston.
It's covered a lot of ground.
It really has. And it's clear this isn't just, abstract theory. It's presented as a detailed roadmap for actually transforming public systems.
Integrating that spiritual clarity, systems strategy, and ethical leadership.
All aimed at fostering dignity, justice, and flourishing for everyone.
Yeah. And the source has this line that sticks with me. Abundance is not about having more, but doing more with wisdom, love, and shared purpose.
Doing more with wisdom, love, and shared purpose.
So it leaves me wondering, for you listening, what simple, maybe daily decision in your own life or maybe in your community could you consciously shift from that scarcity mindset
to an abundance mindset?
Yeah. And what unexpected possibilities might that simple shift unlock? It's a provocative thought.
It really is. We hope this deep dive has sparked some curiosity, maybe shown that a more abundant form of governance isn't just idealistic dreaming.
But actually possible, tangible even.
Entirely possible in our world today. So after hearing all of this, what really stands out most to you? And maybe how might you begin to explore these ideas further, even in a small way, in your own sphere of influence?